Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our next topic belongs to volume 4, which represents the phylum Actinobacteria, and it includes those gram-positive organisms or those gram-positive bacteria which have high G plus C content. So we'll discuss this phylum Actinobacteria and volume 4 of second edition of BERGEY'S Manual of Systematic Bacteriology. So these actinobacteria as a group, they display some common properties, but few members may differ from those general properties. But most of the properties that we discuss, they may be shared by the members. And so at first we'll discuss that actinobacteria, and they are highly, you can say, pleomorphic in their morphology, and mostly some of them they are rods, some of them and they are cocci, and some of them they show filamentous growth, or you can say they display their growth in the form of filaments. So they resemble morphologically as that of filamentous fungi, but the difference between fungi and the actinobacteria is very common, is that in the actinobacteria they are the prokaryotic cells, and secondly their filaments have much smaller diameter than that of eukaryotic molds. And as far as their natural habitats are concerned, so they are commonly present in the soil. They are very common inhabitants in soil. So we'll discuss different members of actinobacteria. So we'll first discuss Mycobacteria, a well-known group because of the disease it causes, and you have heard about Mycobacterium. So they are basically, they are aerobic non-endospore forming rods. Because I told you that they have different types of morphology in this group. So Mycobacteria, they display themselves into rods, and they are non-endospore forming, but itself the cells they are very resistant to the environmental stresses, and they are aerobic in nature. And this resistance which I am discussing is because of the heavy lipid cover in the Mycobacteria, which is based on the mycolic acids, and these mycolic acids, they form a thick waxy water resistant layer, right? So making this organism so much difficult to treat with antibiotics, and so much resistant to stresses such as drying. So that's the reason I discussed that very few antimicrobials are able to enter the cell because of that thick waxy covering. And you all know that mycobacteria, they grow very slowly, and the same reason is since they have very thick cell wall and a layer, waxy water resistant layer. So that's why the nutrient they pass through this layer very slowly, and it is the factor in the slow growth rate of mycobacteria. So somehow it takes weeks for visible colonies to appear. And the commonly known species is Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which causes the tuberculosis. Another one is Mycobacterium leprae, which causes the leprosy. And another important mycobacterial strain is Mycobacterium bovis, which also causes tuberculosis, a severe form of tuberculosis uh, in cattle as well as in humans. Then we have Coronabacterium, an important genus of this actinobacteria, phylum Actinobacteria. So Coronabacterium, they are well known. One of its species is well known, which is known as Coronabacterium diphtheria, and it is the causative agent of diphtheria, right? So it is normally targeting the children, and it becomes severe if not treated properly. So this is how it affects the upper respiratory tract, and it produces a toxin basically, which is known as diphtheria toxin, and all the pathogenicity is because of this toxin. So those strains which are not able to produce toxins, or they are mutated in a sense that they lose their property of producing toxins, so they become avirulent, right? Another we have genus which is known as Probionibacterium. This group is commercially important, industrially important, because they are the producers of propionic acids, and some of its species, they are important in the fermentation of Swiss cheese. And one of the member of this genus Propionibacterium is Propionibacterium acne, which is responsible for the bacterial cause of acne. They are normally present on the skin, but once they get opportunity to cause infection, or your skin balance or skin moisture or pH is altered, and hygienically it is not skin is not maintained, skin hygiene is not maintained, so they get a chance for the infection, and they are the basic cause of acne. So Propionibacterium are not only the producers of propionic acid, but rather a few of its species, they are also pathogenic, like I told you that Propionibacterium acne. Another important genus in this group is the Frankia, and these Frankia, they as in the picture it indicates that it's somehow relevant to plants. So basically, the Frankia are the nitrogen fixing actinobacteria, and they are usually in nitrogen fixing, and they form nodules. This is nodules they form. You can find and the actinobacterial species, Frankia species, in these nodules, and in the elder tree basically. And this is how they look, the filamentous growth, the filaments of Frankia. So some, I told you that some of them are rods, some of them are cocci, some of them they show Chinese letter-like arrangement, some of them they show filamentous arrangement. So they are nitrogen fixing actinobacteria, just like we discussed rhizobia, that they form nodules on in the roots of legumes. So they form nodules in the elder tree roots. Then we have one of the most popular genus of actinobacteria, and the most uh, important genus regarding its ability and to produce antibiotics. So it's best known of the actinomyces. Under a microscope, they are stained gram positive. They are shown with this filamentous structures, and these are the filaments. And this is how its colonies appear. They are the dried cottony white colonies, and they are one of the most commonly isolated bacterial species from soil. So they are strict aromes, and they produce so many extracellular enzymes in soil to utilize proteins, polysaccharides, and then absorb the nutrients. And then sometimes after a few uh, just after rain, you start feeling the soil, a gaseous smell. You can say a characteristic smell after rain. So that is because of the geosmin. Geosmin is a substance which is produced by the Streptomyces species, and it gives a musty odor, a typical musty odor. So basically, it's a volatile compound, and they are the producers of mostly antibiotics, and more than 500 antibiotics. Sorry, more than 500 species has been documented till now under this genus Streptomyces. So this is in the group which is important regarding their remarkable property of antibiotic production. So many antibiotics have been purified, and they are commercially used nowadays. You have heard about streptomycin. So there are so many others. So they all belong to this group and the species of this genus. They are the producers of those antibiotics. Then we have a genus which is known as Actinomyces. It is the genus which has some pathogenic importance. Is They are the anaerobes, facultative anaerobes, and they are found in the mouth and throat of humans and animals. And one of its species, Actinomyces israeli, it causes an infection which is known as actinomycosis, and which is a tissue destroying disease. It usually affects the head, neck, and lungs, and this is how actinomycosis looks like. And show here it is shown in the filamentous structure within the cells and under a microscope. Then we have Nocardia. Nocardia, as you can see, it's microscopic staining is visible in this picture. Its culture is also visible, and this is how its colonial characteristic. They are displaying their colonial characteristics here. So morphologically, they resemble the actinomyces. But I told you that in the previous slides that the actinomyces, they are anaerobes, facultative anaerobes, but they are aerobic, and they are often acid fast. So acid fastness is the characteristics of Mycobacterium, but they are also acid fast, and they display the acid fast reaction. They are also common in soil, and one of its species, which is known as Nocardia asteroides, it is responsible of causing a pulmonary infection which is difficult to treat. Why it is difficult to treat? Because I told you that they are acid fast, and to display the acid fastness one must have a thick waxy covering around the cell, right? So that's why this is the same reason that they are difficult to treat, because of their thick cell wall. Antibiotics, they are not able to target the cells. So the same species is also responsible for causing mycetoma. So mycetoma is basically a destructive infection of feet or hands. So bacterial infection. So they are mostly they are free living, or mostly they do not cause infections, but a few species they have pathogenic status. So these are some important species and important genus that should be discussed in phylum Actinobacteria. So in the next lecture, we'll discuss volume 5.